You know what we all could do today, Cade, instead? Just take a nap. Just take a nap. We'll let the kids stay in there for an hour. Everybody just fall asleep. I feel alone. Is this all of this? I could move that time. That is true.
Right now, we're chilling. I'll just slide this right here.
Great.
For you, I can take some notes. Right here. Just try to turn your
Playing
page
your
for
phone the
you.
whole time. I actually got a new game on my phone. I got Sims on my phone.
Oh. Who's your character's name?
I haven't started it yet. I need a second life.
Slake Vanders.
That's it. Yeah, how'd you know?
Slake Vanders. That's actually
So if we have another boy, he'll be named Slate. Slate.
Silas. Silas Sanders.
I don't know about Silas. Judas. 10-17. No one else is coming.
Peter Paul.
Paul, Peter. Or just Paul. John, Luke, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I mean, I know Matthew, John, Luke. Is there any other combos? Mark, John, Mark, Luke. Mark doesn't work too well. Would you do Saul or you should do Paul, right? Saul's like, he wants to murder people. What about Matthias? Or is that the guy that takes the place in the... I can't remember. That's a good one. Joseph. He was at certain moments. Matthias. They nominated two men, Joseph, called Barsabbas, also known as Justus, and Matthias, two new disciples. That's a good one. Nick at Night. You know, it's like they don't have like our names in the Bible. You know, it's like, what if they're like, so they nominated two men, Blake and
Timothy, or no, you say Jeffrey and
Jeffrey.
Matt.
Yeah, Matt works.
Matthew.
Andrew's got a good Bible name. Just Andrew. I'm just saying Andrew.
Or just Andrew's a Bible name.
Jordan. The River. We're talking about Bible names. Leah. Leah's a Bible name.
I do. My middle name is Christmas.
Your middle name is Christmas?
It's not Christmas.
Leah Christmas. What is your middle name? No.
My dad wanted to name me Melinda Page. Melinda? Yes.
Melinda.
Yeah, my mom told me that, and my mom was like, absolutely not.
That sounds like that should have been your name at the party.
Yeah, we're gonna go watch the game.
I saw him yesterday.
My parents or my mom's house.
Yeah, they
Oh,
played
that's right.
Virginia High. No, not Virginia. We played at Virginia High. I played Martinsville. I was like, all right.
And he is so. But,
Melinda, wow. I'm gonna ask him. That's what a dumb. Sorry, old Melinda.
But like, why would you choose that figure? He is having a hard time. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure.
Christian was at the game yesterday too, and
Oh gosh.
me and him can't have just a normal interaction. Like he can't just be like,
Nobody can have.
"Hey, bro, you doing all right? It's good to see you, dude. Ha, you look great." He can't be those. He goes, "Corey, have you seen the color? You got to play with Mike and Judah." I was like,
What is he talking about? Is this a thing?
It was like the first question he asked me. It wasn't like, "Hey, how you doing?" It was like, "How you doing?" It's high from gay people.
You wanna go play with
And like he
Juju?
wants me to say, no, I haven't seen it, but.
Is it a cultural phenomenon? Oh, I see.
Because the gay one was hiding from you, or the clown's hiding from you because you're gay.
I see.
But
Oh, I see.
he didn't give me a warm up.
I see.
I need a warm up salutation. Yeah, I need a warm up salutation.
It's like that. It's like that reel where that guy's like, I'm gonna do a magic trick, and it's like with his friend. He's like, on 3, when I snap my fingers, you're gonna forget that you're. I'm on live right now, so I don't want to get canceled. You're gonna forget you have a right hand or something. That's not what he says. And he snaps, and he's like, "Wait a second, wait," and he forgets. It's really funny. I can't say it now. I lost the moment. So hang on. Should I just end the stream?
Or get canceled.
Conservatives are gonna hate us. The left's gonna hate us. We're gonna cancel. Ugh.
You're right where you want to be. I guess eventually
It's pretty true.
Pretty worthless, but right now I would love to be living in my parents' basement playing video games. I've been a single dad all weekend, so
They'll do it.
That'll do it.
let's sleep in my parents' basement playing video games right now.
Yeah, that's like responsibility sucks.
My dad would probably let you. That's it.
I'm gonna come make a phone call. Like, hey man.
Yeah, can we get bunk beds down there? Me and Christian's bunk
There was one bed at one point.
All right, you guys want to? Let's do this thing.
Move down.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So do you?
Turn up the yell.
Kind of on the island.
Hey, everybody.
I'm 100% doing it. I'm just doing it.
Oh no. Taylor's gonna stay way back there.
I'll come up here real close too.
It's like we're having a conversation now.
Oh no, the room's getting uneven, guys.
Now we're top heavy.
I think it's because she didn't want to leave you. I think that it had more.
Yeah,
to
she
do
was
with
like cussing and stuff. It was great.
She's like, I can leave mom, but I can't leave dad.
She like pulled a knife
Need a
out. Where'd you
prayer.
get the
Maybe
knife?
this is the closest.
She made a shit.
But that was still back there. This is
You
the
gotta join the crew, Jay.
this is the spirit zone, man. This is where people feel the
This was as
spirit.
close to heaven as you can get.
That's right now.
Wow.
Spirit lead me. Never mind. No, we're not there anymore. All right. We're talking about prayer today. We're in the Lord's Prayer, and we'll read the passage here in a second together. But I asked Andrew and Jordan, or just Jordan, are you going to read it today? Just Jordan. I asked Jordan. Andrew's out. I asked Jordan to open us up with prayer from the book from what's it called? Can't remember. Harry Potter.
Yes, Harry
She's
Potter.
going to read the prophecy from Professor Twain.
So it's a liturgy, and it's called For the Ritual Morning Coffee, and it's just one of my favorite ones to read just in the morning or at the start of a new week. So it says, Meet me, O Christ, in the stillness of morning. Move me, O Spirit, to quiet my heart. Mend me, O Father, from yesterday's harms. From the discords of yesterday, resurrect my peace. From the discouragements of yesterday, resurrect my hope. From the weariness of yesterday, resurrect my strength. From the doubts of yesterday, resurrect my faith. From the wounds of yesterday, resurrect my love. Let me enter this new day, aware of my need and awake to your grace, O Lord. Amen.
That's good. Let's I think it's good. Let's take a second and pray to yourself. Take a second, however you want to, and then I'll pray here in a second. So shit, let's go. I never do. Yeah, however you need to take a second to breathe, to pray, to think, enter into the space, and then I'll pray in a second. God, we come as we are, not as we should be, because none of us is as we should be. And God, I'm trying to remind myself that, Jesus, that you're always setting the table for us. However we're walking in, whenever we lean in to you, God, the table's always set. And however our week was, however this morning was, we're not here to bring our best selves even. We're not here to put the best foot forward. God, we're just here. And I want to believe for myself, and I believe for my friends here that's enough. So Jesus, we ask that you help us today. Help us to see you. Help us see each other. Help us listen deeply to each other. And maybe that's all. And I want that, God. So again, we're here. We're yours. We breathe, and we just want to lean in. And praise thanks your name. Amen. All right, y'all. We're going to go straight into Name the Good. The stuff you've experienced this week, you've seen, you've tasted. I'll start with Andrew and Abby. You guys we talked about this a second ago. Andrew and Abby, I think, at least if I read the text right, are on their way to pick up Drew right now and bring him home, which is pretty cool. So they said they're going to fill us in more next week. But he said he wanted us to share that. He said Abby and I are picking up Drew and bring him home today. It's a long story, but want to let you guys know that you can tell church today as well. So that's pretty cool. So they'll fill us in. He said definitely name the good. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I know. Should we just end?
It's like, yeah, I had really good coffee.
It was good coffee. I will say, last night we didn't sleep. Walt was up at 2 with a nightmare, and he was just up the rest of the time. And I never,
Sorry, my bad.
I never bring my best self to those moments. Like, so for 5 straight hours, I was just operating as a horrible person, honestly, and a zombie. And I just feel so much shame and guilt over those spaces. And so this morning, I was like wrestling Walt, like in his room, because I just wanted him to sleep. And Taylor came in and was like, "You need to get out of here." And so I walked out. And I kind of finally came to my senses a little bit. And I just felt horrible. And I was in the kitchen and they came out. And I told Taylor, I said, "I just feel terrible." And I feel like a horrible person. And she's like, "You know what he was doing in there when she was in there?" She said he was asking for you to come back. And just got me good. And so I'm meaning to cry. And then he just hugged me. He just squeezed me. And so there was some grace from my 3-year-old this morning that was mind-blowing. So here's that. It's my good. Sorry.
Really, really long night.
Wait, that's why I'm crying.
What's going on?
And there's Louis. He's just vibing.
Yo, bro.
He's like, I got good sleep.
Now, what y'all talking about? That's great. Yeah, and you don't even feel shame until your kid gets to be like 4 or 5, because that's when they start actually forming core memories. They won't remember anything.
You can just hit them.
You'll be all right. When they about 5 or 6, yeah, you're like, okay, that's gonna stick. They're gonna remember Dad putting them in a chokehold.
We can have an inside-out island of that.
That's right. It's a whole island. Dad wrestling.
Gasping for air.
I'm holding a baby, so
Yep.
that's great. That's my good.
Cute one.
Sweet.
I got a few texts this week, which were fun, from former students. And one of them is in a class, on an ethics class right now, and they're talking about the stuff that we talked about her senior year.
Nice.
And she's like, it got heated, one of the debates or something like that. But she's like, I felt she wasn't very good in high school, like in debating. She kind of like break down and some people like start shaking and crying or something. And but she said she held her own and defended her points. And she's like, I just felt more prepared after writing some of those papers. And that was a nice text to get,
Yeah.
And then I had another student text me. He's going through some faith stuff, and he was asking questions, and he was like, I remember talking about this a little bit. And then I had another student text me and asking some other questions about hell, which was fun.
That's a good one.
And so it was good. It was just like a nice little thing that, like, hey, I was, so I did some good stuff while I was at the school. So, because you never really know when you're doing anything good. Even with your kids, you're like, is this working? Or like, everyone in here has been involved in ministry at some point. So it's like you're always kind of like, man, is this working? Is this clicking? And to get those little moments was a nice thing to get. So
That's cool.
yeah. And I finally had an easy day at work on Friday. Thank God. Dear God. My soul needed that. I was praying.
Those are good days.
No one yelled at me.
Didn't break anything.
I didn't break anything. I didn't have to break my body or my soul. And no one screamed at me.
Yeah.
I'm not tough enough for this job, y'all. I'm not emotionally strong enough for this job.
Yeah. I'm either. Construction's no joke, man.
Well, it's like I walk into this room and these two dudes are just yelling at each other. And then they look at me and they're like, Corey, what do you think about this? I'm like, I think y'all are way too riled up about this, guys. Like, what's going on with you? You want to talk about it? I was like, Jim, are you okay? Is everything at home okay? Like, why are you so mad about this? It's like, the floor is wrong. I'm like, it's okay, bro. We can fix floor, but you can't fix your soul, man. I'm like, all this stuff.
How's your soul?
We can fix this stuff, but how are you feeling?
How's your floor? How's your foundation?
How's the foundation of your heart?
It says my soul. That just made me cringe. I just felt my skin just like shrivel.
Like, what are you building your house on?
It really did feel like like we were probably trained at some point to have that kind of gospel conversation.
Oh, that was that was a great gospel.
It was a great turn.
Easy transition.
Guys, I had a gospel conversation this week.
They were talking about foundation.
Oh.
Talk about the foundation of your
My
heart.
palms are like sweating now. Like I feel this like.
We'll talk about that in a couple weeks when we talk about Jesus, building your house on the rock.
I'll lead worship that morning.
Okay. Is it Chris? No, it's Charlie Hall.
I'll do every single version of any Christian song that's out there.
Christ
Standing on
alone.
Christ. Yeah.
Something
Go
about the foundation.
on.
Anything about a foundation or standing on Christ in a storm, we're gonna sing that song.
Firm foundation. Isn't there a hymn?
Yeah, there's probably about 57 Christian songs that have something about standing firm on Jesus.
For sure.
Standing on the promises of Christ my Savior.
Hey,
Y'all bring your favorites. All right, we'll all sing it.
firm foundation standing. That's the same. Standing on the promises of God.
It was on a Monday, somebody touched me.
Whoa.
Hey.
Is this a name of good or is this a
In the live
Well,
right
this
there.
is a salvation
talk about
song. I'm not kidding.
who touched you?
In the hand of the Lord. That's what
Oh.
it says. So if you got
Oh,
saved
boy.
on a Monday, you stood up. If you got saved on a Tuesday, you
praise.
I remember this. I remember this now.
touched me.
Yeah, I do
And
remember
then
this.
it ends with the must have been the hand of the Lord.
Must have been the
There we go.
So for a while, you're just out there. Who touched this person?
Think of
And why is everybody being touched in this room?
Yeah, think of a person that has no context of God. They sit there like, wait, what?
Confessional. Everybody's
Why does
confessing.
the song sound so jovial?
Oh man.
Why are we praising the Lord that you were touched on a Wednesday?
Yeah, that's so funny.
What else?
It was good to start Thursday.
Yeah, that was fun. That was real good.
We've also been watching Traders, which has been really fun to watch. I feel like we haven't had a show to watch in a while, and we started watching this, and it's just been fun to do together.
Saw that on the saw it pop up today.
That's
It's so
incredible.
good.
Yeah.
We're watching the
Well,
Australian
yeah,
one
we're
right
doing the
now.
Australian one now because we've watched all the U.S. one that we can.
Gotta branch
We
out.
branched out. It's good
I did
too.
the same with the voice.
Watched every iteration of the voice.
Have you seen that one? It's like somewhere in Africa, and the guy's like, before I was born, my mother died or something like that, and they're like, oh, we're so sorry, and he's like, and my mom taught me this song when I was about 3, and they're like, what? And he's like, and then he's like, no, she died after I was born, and they're like, you just said that, and then he's like, and she's right here, and she like walks out, and they're like, what? Have y'all not seen this? Let me find it.
It's pertinent to the sermon.
Yeah, everybody needs to know.
I'll be that guy. So the Knicks have won 6 in a row.
Yes.
And really, if you know me, I've been a Knicks fan for a very long time. I never left.
It's been a hard time.
Yeah, I never left.
It's been a long fight.
Mike D'Antoni, I've been through it all. We won 6 in a row. Culture's changed. We're 2 games off second place in the East. So nobody get tropes up yet because I'm not.
Okay.
But I have some work friends that they're from New York, and their brothers. His brother left, but we always talk about Knicks. So he wore his jersey on Friday.
Nice.
I wore my shirt. So it's nice to have someone else. It's a Knicks fan that you can share in heartbreak with. But hey, listen, we're 2 games off out of the East. If this is the year that we go to the Eastern Conference Finals, I will
Fly to
sell-
New York?
Yeah, I don't care where it's at. I'll sell some things.
Oh,
It's been a happy time for me. It's been a really happy
yeah.
time.
That's got me. Yeah.
So
praise the Lord.
Yeah. Shout out to Jalen Brunson.
Praise the Lord for the Knicks. That's what I
Should have got
All-star.
All-Star
Yeah.
starter
Yeah.
over Dame.
it's
The fan vote.
ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Fans.
We could have subbed someone else out for Dame.
Hey, at least Scoot sucks.
Yeah.
He's only had under 30 points one time since the beginning of the year.
Brunson?
Yeah.
That's pretty
It
good.
was 21.
Maybe he should be like Embiid and just never be under 30.
It's true, yeah.
Or get 7.
Or just not show up and you're playing your competitor for MVP like last night. Because they were chaining. Where's Embiid?
That's awesome.
Sorry.
Oh, that's good. That's great.
Dislocated his shoulder, so might mess up a rhythm. I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Precious Achua, power forward. Not about that.
Who's making these choices?
That's good.
So,
Here we go.
it's good. Yeah, it's a good time.
Good.
I'm just gonna give you. I thought I could wait, but I can't. So I'm gonna pass the baby. Yeah, then I'm gonna come back.
Here you go. Shoot.
I really thought I had this, but now they just hit me out.
Avery, today you asked at church.
Sorry about that. My mother died before I was born. Sorry about that. Thanks. Your mother died before you were born? Yes. Did you say before you were born? Yeah, like my father married my mother shortly before I was born. Then, right from then, I started singing even before I was born. Oh, I don't understand. There's a song my mother used to teach me when I was 3. I want to sing it today. But you said she died. I don't understand. Your mother died before you were born. Okay. Your mother. No, for real. She's even here. She can say hi to people.
Also, just as the audition.
This is the audition. Oh, that's too funny. All right. Anything else? Sorry, I don't know how to. I should have waited. I shouldn't even shown that. I'm sorry. All right. Let's, all right, that's it.
That's all for
Just end it.
today.
That's it for today. All right. If you guys want to track along, go to Matthew chapter 6. Actually, I would like for 2 people to read it. We're going to read it twice, and I would like to read it in the Message, and then someone else is going to read it. And there's a version that I read from often. I think it's really helpful. It's called the Complete Jewish Bible, the CJB. So I think it's on YouVersion too. But we'll be looking at chapter 6, verses 5 through 15. So if someone wants to read it in the Message first, and then we'll read it in the CJB, whoever wants to do the CJB. Who wants the Message and who wants the CJB?
I can read the message.
Great.
Obviously, the Message is the best one. What are the CJB?
CJB. Listen, the CJB is great. Just wait.
I can even put this in there. CJ. Oh, there it is. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Complete Jewish Bible. That's actually my translation.
I think you were saying V.
No, B.
Actually.
KJV. CJB.
Gotta watch out for those KJV people. They're
C is in Corey, J is in Josh, B is in Blake. Wow.
Man.
Not in that order, though. It should be.
But no, that's the order.
That's the ranking.
Yeah, that's the ranking.
We all know Josh is nowhere near first.
All right, let's read it. Message first, 5 to 15.
And when you come before God, don't turn that into a theatrical production either. All these people making a regular show out of their prayers, hoping for 15 minutes of fame. Do you think God sits in a box seat? Here's what I want you to do. Find a quiet, secluded place so you won't be tempted to role play before God. Just be there as simply and honestly as you manage. The focus will shift from you to God, and you'll begin to sense His grace. The world is full of so-called prayer warriors who are prayer ignorant. They're full of formulas and programs and advice, peddling techniques for getting what you want from God. Don't fall for that nonsense. This is your Father you're dealing with, and He knows better than what you need. With a God like this loving you, you can pray very simply, like this. Our Father in heaven, reveal who you are. Set the world right. Do what's best. So above, so below. Keep us alive with 3 square meals. Keep us forgiving with you and forgiving others. Keep us safe from ourselves and the devil. You're in charge. You can do anything you want. You're a blazing beauty. Yes, yes, yes. In prayer, there's a connection between what God does and what you do. You can't get forgiveness from God, for instance, without also forgiving others. If you refuse to do your part, you cut yourself off from God's part.
There you go. Now, can someone read the CJB?
I can't.
Yes, okay.
Is it Tzedakah? Is that how you say that?
Tzedakah. Is it in
Tzedakah?
5? Yeah.
Yeah, it's in there like 15 times. So I just wanted to
Well,
make sure.
this one, yeah. Tzedakah.
Tzedakah. Okay. What'd you say? 5 to
5
15?
to 15.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's because I was on 1. My bad, guys.
Yeah, 5 to 15.
When you pray, don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray standing in the synagogues and on street corners so that people can see them. Yes, I tell you, they have their reward already. But you, when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father in secret. Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And when you pray, don't babble on and on like the pagans who think God will hear them better if they talk a lot. Don't be like them, because your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. You therefore pray like this. Our Father in heaven, may your name be kept holy. May your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us the food we need today. Forgive us what we have done wrong, as we too have forgiven those who have wronged us. And do not lead us into hard testing, but to keep us safe from the evil one. For kingship, power, and glory are yours forever. Amen. For if you forgive others their offenses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive their offenses, your heavenly Father will not forgive yours.
Great. Yeah, so we're talking about prayer. It's basically, this whole thing about working through the Sermon on the Mount. I'm trying to just always ask the question, what would Jesus do? Let's just get the bracelets back out and let's just do it. So today, if we're asking what would Jesus do, he'd probably be praying somewhere. So if you look at the Gospels, all the time Jesus is praying, or he's going to a prayer, he's leaving ministry and he's going to go pray, which is really interesting. But he's teaching a way of being in the world. He's teaching students of his to how to live. Matthew 11, at the end of Matthew 11, the Message translates it like this. Jesus says, are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burned out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Now, the thing about your concept of prayer, would any of those words in that passage be what you would say, or what our culture maybe largely would say about prayer. Is prayer restful? Is prayer unforced? Is prayer is it heavy on you? Is it ill-fitting? Is it free? Is it light? And maybe I'm just at a certain stage of my life too, but prayer has not always been easy for me. It's forced often. It's hard. I have a lot of questions. Most of the time it's like, why is God not answering? So this is open to participation. What I wrote everything for this week, for today, and there's lots of stuff we could talk about that are really interesting in this Lord's Prayer. But I decided to scrap all that and try to do something a little bit more interactive. So maybe it's better that it's a smaller group here. I think it's really cool. So I ask a lot of questions today. So when we talk about prayer, think about your own personal experience, whatever. What words come to mind when we talk about prayer? When I say the word prayer, be good, bad, whatever, honest, however you want to be.
Awkward.
Yeah.
Long.
Headband, I suppose.
Yep.
Ooh, there you go.
That's a deep wound.
Yeah.
No one looking around.
I
See that? Frustrating.
Performative.
Nice. That's a good one.
I'd say probably like wanting.
Like you're left wanting. Yeah.
Like I'm wanting something.
Oh, I see.
Very much so.
Nick's seventh win.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's good. Quiet. There's this quote I heard. It's from someone. I'm sure it's very powerful if you sit with it. And I think there's a lot of truth there. But someone asked this mystic, it may have been Teresa of Avila. They asked, they're like, when you pray, what do you say? And she was like, I don't say anything. I listen. And they're like, okay, when you're praying, like, what does God say? And she's like, oh, he doesn't say anything. He listens. Is that helpful? It's like, so there's probably some truth there somewhere, but I was also baffled because I was like, so what's happening? You know?
I was like, I do that too. I just call it sleep.
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of truth to prayer being a listening posture for sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't solve all my issues when it comes to prayer, you know?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I can feel guilty when I don't do it for a long time.
Yeah.
Just throughout the day.
I don't know why, but I think back to those days where we would do like the 5 a.m. prayer thing
At the
at
outpost?
the outpost.
Yep.
I don't.
Burned
That's
into my brain.
what
Yeah.
what I think of for some reason.
I don't remember that at all.
You don't remember that?
Was I around?
It was like Friday morning to 5 or something,
You had to have
and
been
I
there.
just remember
Were
like
you
I felt
awake
like
at that time?
I felt like I was
Definitely.
like so great for going.
Mhm.
It's like, no, that makes you want to keep it. Because when you pray at 5 a.m., God, you're
Yeah, it's like a better time.
I don't think I ever went for that.
you have to sacrifice your sleep
That's right.
so that God will hear.
More serious.
Because we would do that, and then we go do the rebel parade.
Get those Confederate flags out.
Confederate flags flying.
We didn't make it in time.
All right, so there's many things in the Lord's Prayer that I think are really, really cool. Just to rattle off some, Jesus is probably riffing off of a Jewish prayer called the Kaddish. It's like really fun. It's almost line by line with the Lord's Prayer. So he's like riffing off of something that they would have known, and he's editing it as he goes, which is pretty cool. He talks about the kingdom coming on earth as it is in heaven. You can trace the entire storyline of the Old Testament with that line, with like earliest pages of Genesis when it talks about what it means to be human. He uses the exact same words for this royal priestly line. Like to be human is to be this royal priest, like to be a part of a kingdom. And so Jesus is like tracing this line. It's really crazy. He confronts that modern misinterpretation, I would say, of us going to heaven when we die. And he says heaven should come down here. Like that's our prayers that heaven come to us. It's really interesting. there's also, when he talks about giving us our daily bread, there's a lot of scholarship around Jesus he was subverting the political culture of the day, because that's how the empire got people to buy in, was that they would give them their daily needs, like bread. And so Jesus is like slowly subverting some of that. It's really cool. We could talk about a lot of that. And I had a whole thing typed out that we could talk about those things, but I wanted to zoom out. You can call it the spirit or just call it intuition. But I wanted to zoom out and ask some questions and just talk about a couple of things as we do that. So in the Lord's Prayer, notice a few things. Number one, notice the our posture. Okay. It says, our Father in heaven. The Greek also reads the Father of us, those of us who are here. So the point is that there's a collective notion to our prayer life. The point is that the our indicates that it's a group of people. There's a notion of individual, like the evangelicalism has basically been built upon individual salvation, individual prayer, individual spiritual disciplines. And Jesus started out with saying like how are we supposed to pray? We'll pray like this, our. So it's like this notion that you're supposed to be praying with people. It's like this collective posture. Even the whole Father language is beautiful. It's like Jesus saying that the thing at the center, what we call God, like the way that God relates to us is like a parent. It's this beautiful source guide. It's a good parent. How that mystery relates to us is in that posture. So there's a deep gravity to community. There's a deep gravity to participation in the life of others. So think about this for yourself. Think about our culture at large, however you want to quantify or qualify it. Here's some questions for us. What would you say are some of the major influences today in our culture that lead us to isolation? Like what leads us in our culture to being more isolated? And why is like community so hard to come by? Oof, that's a good one. What else? I'm getting some more coffee. Anything else?
Those are one of the things that lead us towards.
Yeah, like what's in our culture right now that's like social media. Like, so there's this idea of social media is like you and your world. At least this is how I'm interpreting a lot of the social media stuff, is like what you post, what you don't post. There's this whole fake world that you can participate in or not participate in or whatever. So what's like all these realities or the cultures or the ideals of our culture that kind of lead us to being not in community? What's our values in our culture? Is it community?
I guess it's probably a symptom of social media, in my opinion, but like division, like
Political?
Yeah, or just with everything. Like,
yeah,
you have to take a side on something. Like, you can never be in the middle or anything.
Too, like it's like social media and technology, like texting, it's instant gratification. It's kind of like a dopamine hit. And so I don't know, I feel like it makes it easy to push off, like, oh, well, I'm getting this, people are all access all the time, so I don't need to invest in real community.
Yeah, and technology allows you to be isolated because you can have interaction without having any actual interaction.
Yeah, I feel like you can walk in any store or like coffee shop or whatever and just see people waiting in line or even just sitting at the table with each other and they're staring at their phones. Nobody can just be anymore. I feel like people just always have to be scrolling or something to not have to interact with anybody around you.
Mm-hmm.
You can work from home. You can go to school online. You can
go
to church online.
But it feels
you can
like
have your groceries delivered.
Yeah.
So it's like
because you do all these things.
Well, you could feasibly live your life, talk to the same amount of people, and never see another human in the flesh, and nothing would, like, your mental health would change, but like you could get everything done without ever seeing another.
But that's what it feels like. I think it's because we have an illusion of community. because we do feel connected because we are doing all those things and having all those interactions, but they're completely surface level.
Yeah.
And so like we think that we're fine because we think, oh, I'm having these conversations and whatnot, but it's not the same as sitting in a room with someone and having a actual like deep conversation.
I think the value that trumps all this is like it's the value of self. That's really what makes community difficult. Is because when it all is said and done, there's not a person at the table right now that doesn't value self, because we've lived in an individualistic society. However long you've been alive, you've been baked into it. So, and community is anti-self. And so like, and then now there's like then so like let's say you wake up one morning and you're tired. It's like you're gonna value rest, but that might be the worst thing for you that morning is to be at home on the couch by yourself. And the thing you really needed was to get some clothes on, get dressed, get out of the house, and go meet with somebody. That could actually be the antidote.
Mm-hmm.
So even on a very practical, physiological sense, it's like when you value self, community is the antithesis of that, of getting out and to go meet with people. And so like everything's driving to you. And I'm not saying there's always outliers and stuff, but I think the main driving force is like, man, I'm constantly trying to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever I feel trumps everything else.
Yeah.
Whatever my experience is trumps everything else, rather than leaning into a different way of living and a different way of valuing life.
Yeah.
I think going along with that, me personally, like what keeps me from true community is just vulnerability, which I struggle with that with every relationship, but being willing to be vulnerable and letting other people be vulnerable with you in that.
That's a good one. I'm gonna talk about vulnerability in a second. Nailed it.
Didn't even look at your notes.
Spiritually attuned.
Conclusion.
Yeah. I've read before that like transformation is always in some form the process from me to we. It's always like my focus on, of course, and it's like, what do I need? My next step, my goals, my dreams, my needs to an extent of, and then like, what do we need? You know, it's like, this is a collective notion. Or even like I was saying, even like evangelicalism is largely built upon your exit strategy out of here. So it's like, you got to get your exit strategy whenever Jesus comes back or you die to get out of here. Where it's like the whole picture of the scriptures is like, it's always collective. Like when Israel was set free from Egypt, Israel was set free from Egypt. It wasn't just like Moses or a dude named Israel. It was like Israel, collective Israel was saved. Now, there's probably a whole spectrum of people within Israel that had different thoughts about it. So it's like, but Israel collectively was redeemed out of Egypt. And it's like, that's been the whole story. And so when Jesus teaches his disciples to pray, of course, he starts out with our, because I think he knows this individualism kind of bend that we often have. Let's keep going. The next thing I wanted to point out that's been helpful for me is when it says, hallowed be your name, set apart as holy, as unique, set apart as special. And it's the notion of transcendence, I think, is really powerful. Both secular and Christian, everything is within our grasp in our world. So whether you're Christian or non-Christian, like and you can be in both camps at the same time in the sense of like, we have a purely materialistic worldview where everything is explainable, everything is observable and repeatable, and it's all atoms bumping into each other. And it's very done. But even in the Christian sense, it's like even theologically, everything is systematized. We understand everything. It's all known and understood. But what I think Jesus is asking us to give ourselves to is a posture of humility. It's a posture of a special reverence towards this mystery. That in my life, like if you can hastily generalize and like in a gross, it's an oversimplification. There's things that I understand, and there's a whole host of things that I do not understand. And knowing that and naming that is having a notion of transcendence. It's like, I want to keep this thing as holy and separate than me. And I think that that is actually a beautiful posture. Like, can you think of people in your life that have no notion of transcendence? Like, everything is within the imminent frame of right in front of me, observable, explainable, all that stuff. And it's hard to find a ton of life there. Like, when everything is just math, just numbers, everything adds up. There's not a ton of life there. But there's things that we don't understand, and there's things that we can give ourselves to in a humble posture. I've been reading a lot of catching up on major philosophers in our world, and I heard this story I thought was incredible. But it's the story of Socrates. Everybody knows Socrates. A friend of Socrates asked the priestess of Apollo, who is the wisest man in the world? And the oracle replied that there was no one wiser than Socrates. When Socrates heard the story, he was astounded, and he went to the most knowledgeable people that he could find to disprove the theory that he was the most wisest man alive. What he discovered was that these people only thought that they knew a great deal. Under examination, their knowledge was proved to be limited or false, is what he came to conclusion with. He took the standpoint of someone who knew nothing and merely asked questions, trying to find truth, trying to expose contradictions, trying to find gaps, all that stuff. Gain new insight. And through those insights, Socrates came to realize that the oracle was right, which you can argue, like, he realized that he was wise or whatever. Is that wise? Is that humble? But he came to realize that the oracle was right. He was the wisest man in Athens, not because of his knowledge, but because he professed to know nothing. So to gain knowledge of the world and oneself, it was necessary to realize the limits of what I know. It's necessary to realize your own ignorance. It's recognized to set aside like my preconceptions on things. He has a famous quote that says, "I know nothing except the fact of my ignorance." And I think as we encounter in our culture, we know a lot of things, and there's a tendency and a capacity to try to know everything. And I think Jesus is asking us to just buy in a little bit that maybe we don't. And there's a humility there. And I think that's what's hard for me with prayer often is like I give myself to prayer and I have too many rational ideas in my head that prevent me from praying. I have too many things that's like clogging my brain. So there's a thing that Jesus is asking us to do is to bow to the mystery. It's like just bow to the idea that there's a whole host of things that I don't understand and participate in humility. There's the former Archbishop of Canterbury, his name's Rowan Williams. He talks about this phrase, "Hallowed be your name." He says it's something that should inspire awe and reverence, that people may not trivialize it by making God a tool for our purposes or to put other people down as a sort of magic to make themselves feel safe or to explain away things. Well, that was really powerful. It's like even our notions of God, it's like we easily conceptualize everything and try to understand everything and explain everything away. So think about this. Zoom out for yourself. We have this picture of Jesus. I think he's holding out for humility for us. Why are we not giving ourselves to a humble posture? And, there's lots of explanations of why, but it's like it rubs up against us. It rubs up against me. It's like everything is observable, repeatable, and measurable, except with this Jesus stuff. What he's asking us to do is like, I'm going to give myself to the mystery. So think about yourself. Think about the moments in your life that you have felt most in touch with transcendence. You felt most in touch with something unexplainable. Maybe you saw some kind of nature and is beautiful and it just blew you away. Maybe there's someone else in your life that had some kind of posture of generosity towards you and it just you just said, okay, this is huge. You held your firstborn for the first time. Whenever I held Walt for the first time, something happened in my brain, my heart, and I was just like, okay, this is bigger than me. I have no idea what this is, and this is bigger than me. Anthropologists say it's just survival and reproduction, and that's what my connection is. But it's like you can hold your firstborn and say, okay, this is bigger. Love is bigger than this. Can you think of any moments like that you can name? Any moments of transcendence that you've felt and you said, okay, this is bigger than me, and this is something more than I can understand? Anything come to mind?
I think watching Because the moment in my mind is when like they put Rosie on Leah's chest. I just like broke down, and like it felt like a otherworldly experience kind of thing. And then only other time I felt like that the uncontrollably emotional was when we got married, and like I saw her walking down the aisle and was like, okay, yeah, my life is different now, kind of thing.
Yep.
So
Good moments. Someone's coming. Oh. So we're like, who's gonna be?
I'm actually watching the show. You going too hard? Yeah, it's all right, pal. You're all right, dude.
It's okay.
Okay. You're okay. Deep breath. Syria, you're good. You're good.
Ever listen to a song and it just does something to you? You see a
I
movie,
got a song right now,
does something
bro.
to you?
I don't even know what the chick's name was. Got Little Yachty in it. Lego ring.
Should we have opened up with it today?
Probably. I don't know what it is. Yeah, Lego ring. Faye Webster. I've never heard of the girl before. It's got Little Yachty in it. And there's something in something in it. Resonates in my soul. I don't even know what it is.
Does something to you.
Yeah, it's just like or even like I remember even like listening to like, oh my god, there's tons of music that like when it resonates, it resonates on a different frequency.
Yeah.
And there's something that's like it's not just my biological response to it. There's like I'm like, oh, this is good, or this word is good, or the way there's something going on here. Like it's like I'm experiencing someone's craft. It's like when you see somebody in their element doing the thing that they were created to do, and they do it really well. Like, oh my gosh! Like before Kanye lost his crap, lost his marbles. Like
yeah, like the song that came to my mind was "Runaway." Like I think that is like I could listen to the second half of "Runaway" where it's just like him using his voice as an instrument, and he's not saying words. It's like I could cry listening to it because it's just like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you were born to make this music, and it's
Yeah.
like unlike anything you'll ever hear.
Yeah, and I even hate to bring this up because I'm a big fan of Justin Bieber, but you need to get there's John Bellion. If you don't know who John Bellion is, just go YouTube John Bellion. He's inspired, but he's got these live performances where he like conducts an orchestra and creates the song live. I think I even sent it to you one time because it's like every time, and I'll watch it all the time because there's something in it he's like enjoying himself, but he's not just having fun because anybody can have fun, but he's having fun because he's mastered these elements. And every time I watch it, I'm like, dang. Well, then there's this video of Bieber doing it, and it ain't the same. Like it's like because like he's telling people to do the same stuff that John Bellion does, but there's something different when John Bellion does it. There's something. It's like even when you've been in. Think back when you're in high school or college, and that one teacher comes in, and you're like, ah, gosh, here we go. Or you're in church, and that one preacher gets up, like, here we go. But then you're like, flip that, you're in the class with the good teacher, or that good preacher. Like the air is different in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just even like with we went and saw Judah Smith at Calvary a couple weeks ago, and it's like that dude was born to preach. Like he was born to preach. Even just him being up there on stage, it's like now you could argue he's one thing, but he's mastered the art of communication. And when you see these people in this mode and they're doing it, it's like you take a step back and you got to recognize there's something different in the air. Like this is a very sacred, special moment. It happened the other day with basketball. We're at this basketball game. The guys are playing IMG Academy, which is a big school in Florida. It was wild, and we're hanging with them. Back and forth. We're up by 5. We're down by 5. It was crazy. We hit one of our guys hits this big 3 in overtime to put us up by 3. And it's in those moments where the crowd's going crazy. Everyone steps up, and this dude's not one of our best players. Like if you would have asked me like who's gonna hit the 3, I would not have said this guy. I would have said 4 other guys for him, but he hits the 3, and you kind of have this moment where like you're in. even he's not mastered basketball, but there's still a moment there where you have to recognize the awe and wonder piece that you're touching something in your soul that's aware of a moment that is elevating your experience of life.
Mm.
And you can track biology, yes. You can track the physiologically of it. Like, yeah, there's adrenaline and cortisol raging in everyone's bodies. But even in all that too, you're experiencing something special.
So think about yourself and think about how you can channel that. Like, what if you just try to channel it once a day? Like, think about how much different I would think that would change us. And it changed me, you know. I'm not saying there's an either or. It's either scientific or this. I think there's a fine line of being both. But I do think it would change us if we were people who are more comfortable with not knowing things. Real quick, the next one is the vulnerability of the prayer. Jesus is saying, pray that the kingdom comes. Pray that God's will be done. You need bread. We're praying for bread. We ask for forgiveness. We ask that we don't fall into a trial, a temptation. We ask for deliverance. There's a dependence like that the prayer is asking us to give ourselves to. And we all know people that are like overly independent. Like they do everything themselves. They have no needs. They're perfectly fine as they are. Maybe there's a lack of self-awareness. Like you have 15 needs, but you just don't know them. But it's like there's a beauty to fostering vulnerability. There's a lot of requests in the prayer that Jesus is asking you to be honest with and be vulnerable with. And like when we're talking about social media, it's like our age is kind of fostering a lack of authenticity. We're fostering filters and everything being sexy and together. So when you think about that word vulnerability, what comes to mind?
Jordan and I sort of talked about this week actually, but I haven't finished it. I always started and not finish it, but Brene Brown has a great book called Daring Greatly, and it's all vulnerability. And I think for me, and she talks about it in the book, I think it's like a guilt shame complex for me. For some reason, vulnerability feels shameful in a sense. I don't know why, but I've always felt that.
Is it connected to you having needs expressed that you feel like you can't express your needs?
I feel like I was like expected or trained to be vulnerable, like fake vulnerability, you know, back in the old Jordan days of just like, you know, you're a leader or whatever, you're leading this, you're doing this, and you're just like, you're the one that is expected to step up and say something, or like, I don't know how to explain it, but just like that trained sense of like, oh crap, I gotta be vulnerable. I didn't read my Bible this week, or I didn't do this, where it's like, it's not true vulnerability, but when I think about it, that's kind of like what I think of. It's like I used to be, you know, like always the one to say something or say this, but it wasn't actually like true from like my heart and my needs. It was just like, well, you know, I gotta say something and I'm expected to. So it's like kind of, I feel like I'm in a season of like relearning what actual vulnerability is, and it's kind of a scary place to be.
Sure.
I guess.
The word that came to mind was like risk, because it's, you know, anytime you open up, you're opening up, like you're allowing someone else to come into your innermost being, and that there's nothing scarier on earth. And so it's like kind of like you're saying, like I think we're all growing up in church and stuff, we're trained to peel back one layer, like show a piece of what we're dealing with or what we're struggling with, but we convince ourselves, whether through like shame or guilt or whatever, that no one needs to know the rest of it. No one needs to know the extent of it or the whole of it, because then they'll think I'm too far gone or whatever. Like whatever we tell ourselves to justify not being vulnerable.
Well, too, that I think it's because we judge ourselves so harshly, and we automatically think that if we reveal it all, they will judge us just as harshly.
And I know I'm like, I get in the mode where I'm like, you kind of touched on it, but like, I think I tell myself like, oh, I should have it together. Like I don't want to be vulnerable because then it makes me seem weak or seem like immature or not where I should be, which is it all leads back to, like Corey said, like self. It all leads back to selfishness of like our mind is always pointed on us, and because that's what we know and that's who we are. Yeah,
That's good. That's good.
Or you like grow up in a place where it's like, they challenge you to be vulnerable and then like you really, really are, and then the way they respond to you, it's like, oh well, you can leave now. Like
Yeah,
it's
sure.
not actually
Yeah, sure.
being
Yeah.
accepted of that. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, most people can't handle
The truth.
Yeah, the truth. Most people can't handle vulnerability. Like I think that's my biggest issue with it. It's like, because you have moments where you're like, okay, I'm gonna be vulnerable, and then it bites you in the butt, and you're like, all right, well then what's the point? And then as a pastor, you're trying to use vulnerability as a tool to manipulate community.
Yeah.
Because the reality is like you can't really have community without vulnerability, but no one really wants to be vulnerable, so you train yourself to use fake vulnerability to manipulate it. And it's like, so you just can't get this bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
And you're like, and you almost, but yeah, you do. I mean, you do have to trust people.
Well, that's exactly the whole thing of like, yeah, like if you take the risk and you be honest or something and it backfires, we probably all have a list in our head of people that we would say, I can't be honest with these people.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole group of people. It's like, okay, I know I can't be honest with them. And it's like, is that there's probably some wisdom there. Let's be honest. There's true wisdom there. So I'm not saying don't, swing the pendulum from that. But I do think that there is a beauty to vulnerability. There's a couple of stories came to my mind. I used to work with this one guy when we were in construction together, and he was as rough could be. He was like 60. And some reason we started talking about God and religion. And I asked him, I was like, do you believe in God? And he's like, oh, yeah, of course. And he went on this whole thing about how he's a God-fearing man. And he's like, do you? And I was like, sometimes. And he was kind of taken back. And I told that story to some of the people that were around me at the time. And they were like, why would you say that? Like that, probably threw him off. And I was like, I was being honest. Like, sometimes I do. And I was like, sometimes it's hard. I was like, sometimes it's real hard. And we had one of the best conversations, right? We were building a deck and we stopped and we had one of the best conversations I ever had with that guy. That's the guy I work with now. He's a real tough superintendent dude and real tough guy. And the other day, he had some stuff on our schedule list and it wasn't happening. And I messaged him about it. I was like, hey, this is on the schedule, but I know it's probably not happening. The way I worded it in the text was like borderline passive aggressive. And I didn't really 1000% didn't mean it like that. Like it came across like, hey, you don't know this, but like it was bad. I thought about it for a couple hours and I went to him and I was like, hey, I didn't mean that to come across rude. Like I kind of recognized that it was and I didn't mean it. Like I was just trying to do check off my list. And he responded beautifully. And it kind of like made this little crack in him, and it was a beautiful moment of just like I think I owned something that I did, and it made this like connection with me and Jason now, and so there's some beauty that can happen. It's like it's a big risk. I think Jesus is holding out for us. Is like sometimes the risk is worth taking. And then real quick, this is the last one. Jesus talks about asking for forgiveness, and there's a lot of complications around that. And this is something I talk about often, but current large form Christianity is very un-Christ-like. We talk about that a lot. And majorly you can center it on a lack of forgiveness. Like most Christians are the least forgiving, kind, gracious people. And so it's like we think you have to look like me, think like me, believe like me, vote like me for me to love you and accept you and believe in you and pray for you and fight for your rights or think that or give you the benefit of the doubt and all those things. And what if Christians actually became known as people that were forgiving? What if we became known as people who were overly generous and kind? And if someone smarts off to you at work, like you're not the first one to like jump at them. Like you can actually like take a posture of love and grace. It's like, what if we held big grace for people, and that became a posture for us? We hold this forgiveness for everybody. You don't have to name them, but just think about people in your life who've hurt you, who've stabbed you in the back, who've betrayed you or whatever. It's like, what if you took the step of forgiveness? And then also think in a positive sense. Think about people who have been gracious and kind and forgiving to you. Walt this morning, he didn't voice any of those things, but there was a posture of his heart that was just astounding. And you know what it did to me? It melted me. I think it changed me. I'm hoping it changed me through God. It changed it. I'm hoping it changed me. But I think that's the case. You know, it's like, what if you had that posture towards someone else? And it's like, think about the world you could create like that. And I think all these things have something to do with prayer. Casting yourself into community, the usness, the ourness. Who can you pray with? Who can you pray for? It's about pursuing humility, recognizing that there's 1,000 things that I don't know and understand, and that's okay. And maybe that middle space of naming that is prayer. These things I don't know and these things I don't understand, I want to give myself to like naming that or releasing that. It's a vulnerable stance, realizing I have needs and you have needs, and like, what if we came together and fought for those together, or prayed for those together, all those things. I'm blind in 15 ways, and I need you to help me and help me see those. Maybe I've hurt you, and we need to practice forgiveness. All that stuff. Seeing the needs of the world, stepping in, being kind and gracious. I think it's all about prayer. So think for yourself, how can you embrace a prayer practice this week? It can be something you read, like this Every Moment Holy. I think those are really helpful and beautiful. Something you can read and recite to yourself or memorize. Maybe you need to take a practice of like journaling prayers. Maybe writing physical prayers is helpful for you. Maybe it is wordless. Like maybe you just need to take 10 minutes in your car before you get to work and just sit in the quiet. Maybe that's an option for you. I think that's helpful. So what kind of people could we be if we took the time to slow down, to ponder, to think through these things, and ponder our place in it and what God could do through those kinds of people? And I think that's really beautiful and really compelling. So there's a Lord's Prayer for us today. We're going to keep going next week, talk about fasting, but I think I really needed some of this that was helpful for me today. So I want to pray for us, and then I'm done. Let's pray. God, again, we just come as we are and with all the stuff we got. And I pray that we can dance with this prayer of yours that you taught us, Jesus. And I pray that you give us words for it in our own. So maybe we memorize it and you help it come alive in our own hearts. And there's specifics that we can add in or apply to it. And I pray that for ourselves. And I just ask for freedom. I ask for freedom for myself and my friends here, that however we can approach the table of prayer, God, I pray that we see the pathway and you help us with it. And whatever it is, written, something that we've pre-read or someone else has given us and it's helpful for us, or we write ourselves, or it's just wordless, God, I pray that we embody it. I want to have that posture of surrender to you. And I think that that's a beautiful way to get myself. And I ask that for myself and my friends here, that we could do that this week. So Jesus, help us along the way. We want to be like you and think like you and feel like you and then act like you in the world. And I pray that prayer is a helpful way that we can do that. And I pray this in your name. Amen. All right, everybody. Cheers. We'll do dinner this week on Thursday. But other than that, that's all I got. Cheers.